Oh, you weren't supposed to see that, everyone.
We are live on Groundhog's Day. We'll be right back
How
after this.
punny are we today? How punny are we?
Yeah. Hey, welcome back. And I guess my friends don't know I'm on live right now. So, anyhow, today is Groundhog's Day, but enough of that. I just had a topic today.
The bear has feelings, you know.
Shh. I hope Jerry didn't see that.
Shh, you should have never said who you got it from. Now he's going to catch it.
Well, gee, I think he's okay.
As many of you regular viewers know that we kind of culminate each other into laughter right before we go live, and then we don't know when we're live, and then it's actually on camera. And yeah, the little dancing routine that I don't confirm or deny I just did was a result of what Lynn was doing back when I was backstage and I could see her, but she didn't bring me up to the platform. So
Yeah, I kind of like just put a necklace on, and then I was like, oh, let me see, do I want logos, labels, but I don't know what and I'm just like this and this. I'm like, oh, Brian's down there. So he's just mimicking me.
that's all I got today. That's all I got.
Oh my gosh. Speaking of got today, we didn't know what we were going to do our title today. And then it just dawned on me, today's Groundhog's Day. And it shouldn't matter if there's 4 weeks, 6 weeks, or 8 weeks of weather.
I didn't even know it was Groundhog's Day.
There you go. Exactly. The point is they made a holiday out of something, or whatever. Not official a holiday, but
kind of reminds me of somebody when they look at the weather. Like, I don't watch the news. I get a talking to, if you will, by my girl, where she's like, hey, at least just catch the highlights. And I'm like, I've always been wired that it's like, I'm going to create my own world, not look at the world.
Exactly.
And so when I think about Groundhog's Day, it reminds me of like how people view the weather, where they're like, oh my God, they get all up in arms about, oh, this meteorologist can't get it right, or it's Saturday's going to be terrible. And then if you dig a little deeper, you find out they had no plans anyway.
Right.
And I'm like, what difference does it make?
Yeah. Well, and if you really figure it out, that all they do is they go call the airport, get the national weather, and then they relay it to you. I mean, truly, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I had a friend's husband who was a meteorologist, and I learned a lot of that stuff.
Sure.
So again, and I mean, I've got the weather app. So if I need to find out right away, and I go, how's the weather somewhere? So I check, and then I'm like, okay. We get out of that topic, but really, you hit it on the nail earlier when you said, I don't look at the calendar. I didn't know that date. It's exactly right. That's the same way that if you have a goal or you're planning to do something, you don't really need to give it a date, but you need to do everything you can to go that way. Now, I'll give a good example. Soon we're going to have this show's going to be powered by something here real soon, and it's getting closer. I'll just say by the end of the month or whatever, but it took a lot to get where I need to get for the TV programmings and everything I do, for the things I produce and the people I'm associated with, but it's coming to fruition. But sometimes, okay, so I did a book really quick because I wanted to go out on the road. Well, I mean, I did that one way, that way. And there's a lot of things I lost out by doing it that way, but I wanted to prove a point to myself, right? So now it's okay, I have my own calendar and what I want done. But when there's other components that you're waiting for those things in place, those are outside of my control. So pivot and do other things that could be done in place of. So when you realize that as long as you're going in that direction, or like, I can't lift things too high or this or that. Like, I just realize you do things the way you got to do them. You got to realize you do the things the way you do them, but make sure that you realize that in time, your, everything's going to come out in the wash, right? Like they say, right? You put everything in the wash and then it all of a comes out and it's all clean. Some things need to be Some things need to stay in the wash longer because they need to be pre-treated or what, it's a case by case basis. So that's how life is. It's all a case by case basis.
Yeah.
Like you have already see, most people don't even have the ratings done. You have the ratings done. You have your cover done, but there's still some components you're waiting for, and so be it.
Yeah.
But you have taken all these little times to write all this stuff. That is amazing. Like when he starts publishing, he's gonna publish because boom, 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 boom. And you're gonna be go, how the hell did he do that? He's been doing it all along.
I think too many people put they put the attention on a deadline, whether it's and obviously there are goals or there are deadlines that are important in life, like when you close on your house, the date of a child, birthdays, whatever.
Hey, but check out those things. The date you close in the house, something can happen and not do it. The due date of the baby doesn't mean they're going to come. They either have to be induced, bake longer, wait longer. Those are estimates.
Yeah.
They're not actual factual.
And I look at it a little bit different, where it's like, hey, I don't, do I know that it's Thursday? Yes. But am I on my path, or am I on a path that somebody created for me?
Yeah.
Plus how much of, like obviously a book, if you got a publisher, they have demands, but how much of this is actually stuff we're creating for ourselves that nobody knows about? So we're putting added pressure on ourselves that doesn't need to be there. Or is it something that are we putting the pressure on ourselves, or is somebody anonymously putting on ourselves? More than likely, it's not anybody else. It's just the feeling that we put this on ourselves, and then when it doesn't happen. But obviously, it doesn't mean that you're a failure. It doesn't mean that you're not going to get it done. It's just not going to happen now. Right. But obviously, there's a culmination to everything, and whatever that is,
Well, and the biggest important thing is, like, sometimes Jerry takes a little credit about my book, but I'm like, Jerry, you don't understand. I would do it. I don't do it with your blessing or because you're on me.
Yeah.
I did it in my tone. Same thing with you. You're going to do it when you're ready, and that's it. And that's how it should be. No one should have that power or authority or demand you to do something because they told you to do it then.
Well, and I think too is like the second part of our discussion here today in the title below on the bottom of the screen is that I think that when you choose to take a route, right? Like for instance, when you fully commit and you're on a road, you're on an expressway, you're in the most rightmost lane, and you're going to take that exit. You can't take that exit unless you fully commit. It's like either I'm going to take the exit or I'm not. There is no maybe. There is no middle, because you either do or you don't. The same thing applies with what direction you're going in. But also, though, I want to point out, it's not only the direction you're going in, but the niche that you serve in terms of the customers, the person you want to become, and your zone of genius, right?
Yeah.
You double down in one thing. You do one or a few select things very, very well, and not, and I think that that's the difference between being on the road and everything's available, right? Where there's more cars versus the few people that might take that exit. Once you find where you need to be, double down in where that is.
Yeah. And I mean, and so let's say you took that road and you're driving and you're committed to that lane and there's no other lane you can be, still take that and still figure out your next route, because it's okay. Next thing you know, you may have found a store or stopped at a nice restaurant, or something else can happen along the way. But again, it's not like it's a catastrophe. Okay, so then you're 10 minutes behind the time you were going to go to a place or something. That's why I allow myself some time, because you can maneuver, be a little off. But again, you're talking precise, meaning Google can tell you if you take off a right, the Google Maps can tell you to take a right here, and you couldn't because you weren't, you didn't realize that's 2 lanes to the right and you were in the 3rd lane or whatever. You got to realize that it'll change the time that you're going to be there. And again, it doesn't matter if you're a little off. So be it. There's no sense in getting frustrated about it. There's no sense in walloping over it. Take that adventure and see what it is. I think that's the most important thing to know, is that we need to stay calm and laugh at our little mistakes and say, shit, I never went this way. I'm a little lost, But okay, what's around here? So if I get around here again, I can't tell you how many times from living in Long Island to go to, or living in Syracuse and going to Long Island to go see relatives in the Bronx and in Long Island, how many freaking times I would get lost going there.
Yep.
And, and it just, but I'd eventually get there. I'd cry because the traffic was so busy, but I wasn't going to fight the traffic either.
Correct.
Didn't have Google Maps back then, people.
Yeah.
And it wasn't a good idea to take a map and go look like this either.
Yeah. You got your car where there's cars on both sides of the streets. There's a bus right in front of you. There's people walking by and you're on a map. Right?
Yeah, no, yeah. Yeah, I think that was half the traffic or accidents back then.
I think another piece to this all in it, and it's been many years in the making, but I think I'm there, but it's always a piece of development, is done as imperfectly done is better than perfectly undone.
Yep, that's how my book was.
You know what I mean? It's like, okay, number one, perfection is an illusion.
Mm-hmm.
Perfection doesn't exist, right? You can't touch it. You can't feel it. A lot of people may, despite what some people may say, it's up to the interpreter. It's up to the eye of the beholder. And so how long are you going to hold back in life things that you can get done right now if you give up the meaning you're attaching to it, or it has to look a certain way, right?
Yeah.
Like when it comes to books, when it comes to writing books, obviously, like when you think of a book, right, whether you've written one or not, obviously you're going to be biased if you've written one or several. But it's like even what you define as a book is all up for interpretation.
Yeah.
This
absolutely.
day and age, books are like mini books, or they could be filled with drawings. I mean, that whole definition of what a book is up to each individual person. And then if you're going to become an author, well, nobody ever said it has to be this novel that looks boring with several hundred pages and no diagrams or no colors, right?
Right.
Nobody. That's the art of a lot of this, is that you can create your life based on how you want to live it. Like it's by your own design.
Yeah. Which, there's this, I've just recently known, because I've been producing a show with, they've got that writers Substack now.
Okay.
Which I'm dying to get into there. There's a lot of people that do their writings, all different kinds of writings, and there's no rules to writing, and to forget a literature or proper grammar, whatever. Look at E.E. Cummings, the way he wrote, It doesn't matter. You defy what you want to defy. And that, I think once we realize that, and I love anymore, like my book, I'm like, I didn't do a great job in it, but I don't care. I got it done. To me, what parts can you look at pros and cons, and just starting and finishing and laughing at yourself and saying, there was a lot of pressure, a lot of emotional stuff to do, and that was a pain in the ass. I mean, like, you just live and learn, and it doesn't have to be perfect. Just say you want to do something and you go and get it done.
Well, more than likely the people that are going to nitpick or look at things a certain way, or whatever, they're likely not going to enjoy the book anyways. They had an ulterior motive, and that was to condemn it. That was to to criticize it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, okay, commonly, most of us have enough going on in our lives that we can be doing the inner work from now until the end of our lives, right?
Well, and as we should.
And instead of taking one moment to criticize something based on pettiness,
Well, it's same thing goes with, look at the people I've always admired. I'm not the weight I want to be, / I've got whatever, but I admire when people, feel comfortable in their skin to still show joy and laughter and dance and do this. I'm like, wow, I've learned to have confidence because of them, not to mock them or not for anything else, but to say, you know what, there's room for everybody, like Christopher Ross should say, get your freak on. It doesn't matter. You just be seen, just be heard. The same way you need to be seen and you need to heard. You need to listen, and you have to reciprocate the same thing. Don't judge something if you don't want it to be judged yourself.
And I think too is that when you take that visual about getting off in that lane, right? You also have to be willing to consider the people that are going to be there for you or not, right? Because it's like, okay, less people are going to get off in an exit as opposed to going straight. Well, also consider that your audience, you might have to create an audience. You might have to create a new group of people in a community, right? But the difference is that you're up for that.
Yeah.
With everything you do, would you rather, in the minds and in the hearts of everybody that you serve, whether it's for business or family, friends, would you rather do everything within your power to be the expert, the trusted advisor, and the person you never knew you could be for a small group of people, or to continue to try to please everybody that don't know you exist?
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the other fun thing is that, you never know with our show how goofy we're gonna be in the middle or the outside or the beginning or yep, whatever it takes. But again, it's going your own direction. You know, there's that quote about, don't take the worn out path, take the untraveled path or
Yep.
whatever. The world is we get so complacent to always be going flowing the way things go, but you should take the off-road Jeep off the road and go travel and experiment and find out what you find out.
That's one of the things I never understood in business is that if you don't like where it's going, whoever said you have to stay on that track?
Yeah, yeah.
If you're bored about what the majority of people are doing, nobody ever said you had to stay there.
Well, that's what's really cool about living right now. We are blessed living right now, even though there may be some tough times. But the bottom line now is really, the way corporate was structured. That's not structured. I went to school in 1987 to a business school, and the shit I learned there doesn't apply half of it. Well, I mean, counting principles does, but whatever. But I'm just saying the way everything's structured now is obviously different. I mean, I see that in different workplaces. It used to be you can't take that many time off. You have to work the days I tell you. And yet people are telling them I can work only these days and I don't feel good. And I'm just saying, like, it's different now. Everything is different now. And yet that's why you got to go with the flow of things, or you're gonna be lost in the shuffle and you're gonna realize what the hell happened.
Well,
You
and
know?
to quote one of my mentors and friends, Larry Levine, is that he's not the originator of it, but he commonly says in a lot of his teachings and a lot of his sharing, whether it's on video or mastermind or for articles he writes, is whatever is old is forever new.
Yeah. And
Just
Larry's become a new friend of mine. We're in a mastermind with Scott Schilling.
yeah,
I don't know him yet, but
right.
I plan to become good friends with him. But it's just the association that yeah, I love some of the things I've heard him say. So
Because the thing about it is that another way of looking at it would be like, okay, a doctor may have this wealth of knowledge, and then let's say they get into a particular practice, right? Something very niche, something very specialty. Is that it doesn't mean that they forgot the things that they learned the first year of medical school, right? They still have that stuff, but but those are the basics, right?
yeah,
But they need to refamiliarize themselves, just like anybody in a profession that has to gain, credits all the time, ongoing credits to keep up with their craft. It doesn't mean that
absolutely.
it doesn't apply anymore, but obviously there again, there's a reason why what there's a reason why, like, you can continue to read marketing books and sales books or whatever, but the essence of everything comes back to something very, very simple and always will.
And you heard it here, but 2023 is the new era of AI. And that's now gonna blow people's minds. We are finally watching from futuristic TV shows and stuff. That shit's coming to fruition now. And so GPT is like it's everywhere and it's just amazing. It enhances slash anybody wants to be creative can be creative now. So there's no excuse.
But obviously there again, it's like, to somebody that that experiments with it is not going to be nearly as successful as somebody that immerses themselves in it.
Absolutely.
Big difference there.
Absolutely. So, we everything is a teaching learning moment and we just don't realize it and we don't appreciate the magnitude of sharing and getting together with people and you know knowing that we don't know everything and learning something new.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's great. But again, we just want to make sure everybody knew that um be on your own path. Don't be on anybody else's schedule. What's your last final words before we get going?
Sure. If you have to justify your path to people, whether they don't understand it. Obviously, you got to use your judgment based on who this person is in your life. If people are always trying to challenge you on whatever, but then when you take a step back and look at what they're up to, consider that that person might not be the best in your life, because there's people that you're in alignment with. They know where your heart is.
Mm-hmm.
They know that you're always up to big things. But to somebody that is always challenging you based on, I don't get it, I don't understand it, maybe that's somebody to gravitate away from. That's what I got. How about you?
Well, I was going to say, one thing we can never get back is time.
Mm.
You have to spend that time with those people, then evaluate that and be like, I'll see you when I get my shit done. Like I have told you the last year and a half my wish, and it's all coming to fruition. But there weren't setbacks. There were just time. It just wasn't the right time. And again, it's really exciting to say that I only share that like with you, very minimal people. Not everybody else knows what I'm going through. And I've got to also give you kudos that you've been making little clips of our clips, and
Yeah,
I've been enjoying it. I've been loving it. And it's going to be really cool this year of what's going on. That's all I got to say. But again, sometimes things are not on the planned schedule time, but if you're heading that way and you are working on it, you're doing something for it, you're on your track. You're
I want to share one more thing, and I learned this yesterday, and it's nothing groundbreaking, but it's a mindset about instead of considering daily, weekly, monthly, yearly goals, consider hourly goals.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
yes,
And I'm
yes,
like, wow, what do I want to do this hour? What are my
yes,
deliverables at the end of this hour? And I
yes.
think that given how much notifications we have and how much going on and how much noise and all the content that there is to consume and make a part of our lives, what are you going to do on an hourly basis?
Yeah, and that's the thing you don't understand. If you really seen whatever every little chore took you to do, like going to the bed, I grew up with my kids and I only had basic TV. I would go ahead and do things between commercials,
Yep.
and I could say, "Shit, I got a lot done."
Mm-hmm.
It's how you do it. I mean, it's the 4-hour work week, the whole name it. We'll have to have a topic about it. But again, it really is down to that. It's down to just taking your few minutes and enjoying that, making it the fullest.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a new thought. I'm like, wow, okay, to break it down by an hour. I mean, that's nothing new. Like any planner that you grab will have blanks for different hours. You got it in your
Yes,
calendar on your phone. But to
yes,
actually, and
see it.
it's all the mindset work.
Mhm.
I'm going to break my day down into what I'm going to get done per hour.
Absolutely.
And it's like, if it's a multiple hour project, so be it. But once your brain is immersed in that project, the likelihood you're going to complete it is much greater, because it's something that fulfills you.
Right. Well, Brian, we both are busy and got to go
Yeah.
somewhere else. So I love you so
Love
much.
you too.
Thank you for being here. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks everyone for
Yeah.
watching. We'll see you next week.
Bye. Love you, Brian.
Love you too.